What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is December 29th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, I want to spend some time diving in directly to analyzing some of the relative short-term price action in Bitcoin, because over the last few days, we've been setting in lower highs and lower lows. And it's a question of whether or not we're expecting a pretty serious pullback in this market after moving up well over 600% from the lows we set back in March to the point where we're at now. And we're going to be diving into altcoins and Ethereum as well as taking a sponsored look at our partner for today, which is the Stacks platform, which has some really exciting news that we're going to be sharing later on. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it, guys. Starting off here over the last 24 hours, we can see here that not only Bitcoin, but a few other cryptocurrencies as well are in red territory. There's a few outliers like Cardano and Binance Coin, as well as Waves, Quant Status, Augur, and a few others like Nano and Polkadot and Ampleforth. But really, as we go down the list here, the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are in red territory following Bitcoin's move. We still have yet to see that absolute split or dichotomy when it comes to altcoins to Bitcoin. The good news is we'll take a look at later is that altcoins are pretty much on par now with Bitcoin. We're not seeing this split anymore, even on the upward moves and the downward moves. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin here on the USD tether chart here. In this case, we can see that overall we've been setting in these lower highs here since back 2 days ago on the 27th. And we've been setting in these lows here that are relatively around the same range here. I apologize, I misspoke a bit. It's not lower lows in this case, but higher lows in this case, slowly wedging in here, building a coil of price. And the great thing about wedges is that they usually lead to some kind of major move of some sort, so they can increase volatility for those who are short-term traders. The bad news about a wedge is that we don't know what direction it's going to go in. And as the old infamous saying in the crypto space is, it could go up or it could go down. But to be realistic with you guys here and actually just try to have some realistic expectations, I want to spend some time to, again, just keep in mind overall that right now, the key thing we have to understand is that Bitcoin has on the daily chart gone nearly parabolic. We'll just take a look here at the daily. It's not rocket science. This candle here, for example, the long extended wicks we have here on this candle, closing out the vast majority of the daily price gains that we had at the new all-time highs, a little bit above $28,000, faded, and we have not been able to really progress back up to those levels like we had been over here. So we've got a chance here where it could be just another sideways consolidation period like we had here, like we had back over here, maybe back over here, and what we've seen in the past as well for Bitcoin. But I would just say to bear in mind here, again, to keep things conservative. Again, if you're looking to prepare yourself in this market, to make sure to expect the worst case scenario of anything, especially after these kind of vertical run-ups like we've seen in the past. Again, we talked the other day on the live stream, the similarities to what we're seeing back here in 2019. Is it too quick, too fast? That's going to be a really important question to answer here over the next few weeks. I know in the Dash report, we're going to be doing a really deep dive on this topic and talking about how this cycle varies from traditional cycles in the past. That's a really critical thing we need to focus on. It's not something we could just summarize in a video, but I think overall, the critical thing here is to watch what happens when we test in through this wedge. Do we get a breakdown below this level or a break higher? I know a lot of people think that there's $30,000 in the cards, and it is definitely still possibly at play here, but we're going to need to see us come down here, make support, and rebound vertically through this wedge. We need to make it very clear that this is going to be a break up to the upside versus a breakdown. So it's a critical thing I think we should keep an eye on over the next couple of, not just a couple of hours, I guess possibly even the next day or so if we continue to wedge in even more. But it's going to be a breaking point there. Now, what's interesting as well is that Ethereum, not too much surprise, is holding relatively well against Bitcoin, holding the vast majority of its gains from the recent leap up in the market that we saw back over here, and not only in dollar terms, but also against Bitcoin. But on the actual tether chart here, just to be fair across the board, we're seeing the same pattern here of higher lows and lower highs. Again, you can see those lows being much higher and much more directional to the upside, as even though the market has started to pull back due to Bitcoin, we've been seeing that Ethereum and other altcoins are starting to gain some of that dominance, and they're holding in that case. So we'll see here. Maybe there will be an interesting event where, for example, Bitcoin breaks through and Ethereum is able to hold some of that liquidity shifts. I don't see that happening, to be honest with you guys. I want to wait until it actually visually happens in the market before we really switch on and say, yep, the altcoin cycle's here, the market's starting to move up. But for now, We're watching that same exact wedge here, same exact formation. Again, to my point here, Bitcoin dominance is still holding, altcoin dominance is still holding the vast majority of its gains here from the last couple of days. You can see that it's pulled back here over the last couple of hours here on the 28th to the 29th, but at the same time, we're still generally holding at the support range here. The biggest thing overall is that even if we pull back down here towards the lows, we do not want to break 28 percentage points on altcoin dominance. That is the critical thing you need to watch there. So we have basically three things we're watching. We're watching the wedge here on Bitcoin, the wedge here on Ethereum. We're not overcomplicating things. We're not using excessive indicators. We know that this market, if you're looking at the Fear Greed Index, if you're looking at any kind of instrument like our SMS indicator that aggregates the stochastic RSI, the MACD, and also as well the squeeze momentum indicator, three of my favorites personally, all of them are signaling that Bitcoin is absolutely bullish. It's on fire right now, even with the cool down, because we look at weekly and monthly timeframes with those indicators. And then again, of course, as well, the altcoin dominance here. Those are the critical things, again, to focus on price and market dominance. Don't overcomplicate it. The one thing I would say is that, again, even if we go up to 30,000, guys, the major goalpost here is just making sure that we can preserve our profits overall from what's happened over the last few months. It's not really about making a short-term trade here and there. It's that if we break through this and we break down significantly enough, we could see a pretty sharp correction. The reason I pointed that out here is that obviously valuations, again, from that point I mentioned, have gone from around $151 billion at the bottom of this market. Actually, it was probably a little bit less than that just to get the official figure. I think the low here is $132 billion. But if we step back here, focus on these valuation charts for the overall market, we're getting pretty close here to those all-time highs. We're not exactly there yet. And who knows, maybe that push to $30,000 is what we need in order to get back up specifically to test those highs. We have a correction to pull back for maybe a periodic month or 2 or 3 months. It could really get dragged out. We don't know where we would get the handle. So we're getting a cup and handle formation on the overall valuation. This is something, again, that we have seen periodically. We saw it with Bitcoin in the previous cycle, but this time around with the larger altcoin market as well, it might be that we need to see total market capitalization do the exact same thing. And we can actually chart that on TradingView. If you just simply type in total, this is going to give you total market capitalization here. We can take it here to the monthly. Right? And we can see here, we're getting very, very close, technically speaking. If we were to close here for the month here in December, we will have set a new all-time high for monthly closes in this case. And also, I would assume, if I'm correct on this, weekly closes as well. Yeah. So pretty much, yeah, we would set in a new high here. And what we're doing is technically the other day, we came up to the valuation range we were at the peak of this here. So now it might be that we're setting up for a short-term correction where we're going to be pulling back here. Go ahead and get the polyline tool where we pull back here. Oh, apologies, I have my other drawings. Oh no, that's not going to work. Well, I'll just go ahead and I'll use my mouse here in this case. I know that seems a little bit on the fly here, guys, but what you would generally see is price coming down here, coming down to some kind of range here, pulling back on some of these valuation gains, maybe to this midpoint here that we set back here in early December, closing down some of the later phases of the gains here, and then starting to cup up here. Again, breaking off of the handle of the cup and handle and breaking up higher towards well over $1 trillion in valuation. That could be the point where we see that altcoin market spark, right? Bitcoin's coming back up, but the liquidity has stayed and maintained in the market, and now it's going to start circulating through altcoins. That's something we can definitely watch for. Again, who knows if we're going to get it right away just like that. But above all, this is a really critical thing to keep in mind, just how heightened we've gotten here. We've gone from around a $320 billion valuation back here in September of this year to more than double of that, nearly around $700 billion, with an absolute high of around $750 billion. This is significant stuff, guys. Again, we don't want to get caught in absolute euphoria. I know there's a lot of fundamental developments. There's a lot of great companies getting on board, but we've seen this before. The outpacing of the previous cycles here, where things break up too quick and then they stagnate for a long period of time. So again, just something to keep in mind here, guys, not being bearish. I'm curious to hear what you all think about this, like this kind of analysis of taking a look at total market cap, looking at altcoin dominance, where it's at right now, considering Bitcoin and Ethereum's chart here in the short term. What do you think is going to happen? If you guys, again, like this discussion, please drop a like. And I want to go ahead and spend some time here real quick to talk about our sponsor for today, and that is Blockstack. Now, Blockstack's been around in the space for a pretty long period of time as a project. They've been formulated in the space for a very long period of time, developing their own blockchain platform. But they've recently had a lot of major announcements. We recently talked about the Stack launch, in this case Stack 2.0, which is going to give people the ability to really have DeFi in the Bitcoin space, which is really exciting. Well, now, in this case, through Reuters, they have an official announcement for the platform where they're actually going to be able to desecuritize Blockstack's token. So one of the big problems for Blockstack's native token on the platform is that because it was very heavily reliant on the company itself and had some aspects that weren't per se centralized but were dependent on that company, it was very difficult to argue that it wasn't a security, and therefore you couldn't trade it on US exchanges. Well, they've come out publicly with this announcement now, basically saying that they are reversing that security label as they're aiming to further decentralize their project. And this is something really big, guys, because there's a lot of companies that don't go through these steps. They're still in this phase where after all these years, they're still centralized and they have no real kind of objective to decentralize in this case. Well, Blockstack has done just that. They've done the necessary compliant work with the SEC in this case. They're actually going to be placing a filing in the coming month here that's going to file in this case once the new Stacks network launches. In this case, to be able to be desecuritized and serve more as a utility token or a native token or coin to the platform, similar to platforms like Ethereum or Bitcoin, where it's completely decentralized and they're not the only ones in control. And I think that this is really, really exciting news. I recommend reading through the Reuters article. They talk a bit about the details, but this is the key point here, that over the past year, they'd been moving on an explicit path here to decentralization with several independent entities now in the ecosystem. So again, it's about basically showcasing to regulators that it's like, look, this is not just Blockstack's company or parent company, running everything. This is an actual decentralized network with different components where we don't have to file financial reports. We don't have to be seen as a security, and that now it can be freely traded on a lot of exchanges. So this is really exciting news. And outside of that as well, this also comes with fundamental development. The only reason they're able to do this is because they're launching Stacks 2.0. And this is going to be a massive move of the Blockstack platform going into the world of Bitcoin with DeFi. And again, as you all know, I'm a big person, when it comes to DeFi. I'm very, very prominent in the DeFi ecosystem. But one thing that I've really been, hard to find is a valuable player that's actually going to make DeFi interesting and work within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And this is exactly what Stacks 2.0 is focused on. So I recommend you guys read into what it's about. I think it's actually a really genuinely interesting project. It's why we have them on here. And the reason why is because for me personally, I focus on total value locked up. And DeFi currently at the moment is somewhere, it varies depending on the market valuation of the assets like Ethereum. It's anywhere from around like $15 to $17 billion on a daily basis. Bitcoin right now, as an asset, is well beyond the valuation of $500 billion. It's around that range now. So we have to consider in this case that there's a lot of value there to tap into as collateral, as an asset to bring to the DeFi space, and that's exactly what Stacks 2.0 is going to bring. And the great thing is, this isn't a white paper, folks. They've got it ready on their GitHub. You can go take a look at it now. All the features are pretty much product ready in this case, where they'll be able to be analyzed in GitHub. Mergers have been made in this case for the code, that it's pretty much ready to be deployed on mainnet. Now it's just going about testing, doing some rigorous background checking. So I recommend you guys go through, read a little bit of the article here, learn a little bit about it in this case, and learn about what Stacks 2.0 is trying to do. To simply put it again, as we've talked about in the past, Blockstack is aiming to bring Bitcoin, DeFi to Bitcoin in this case, which is going to be massive if you can actually tap into this market here and build services around Bitcoin as an asset within the DeFi ecosystem. And hopefully there'll be some cross collaboration. I hope that above all, Blockstack can service other chains as well and have ways to cross collaborate these different forms of DeFi on different networks. But above all, if you want to keep up to date with Blockstack as a project, again, I've been keeping up with the project as far back as I think it was like early 2019, when I was following the story of them doing the raise and launching as a project. If you want to, keep up with all this news here, just get a decent idea about what they're working on, what makes up the Blockstack ecosystem overall, I highly recommend you join their Telegram. We'll leave a link down below in the description so you guys can join in on the conversation. But that being said, everyone, that's it for today's video. I appreciate you all joining me. This is a really interesting time here for crypto markets. We're now starting to see that valuations are continuing to decline here. So it may be that we're going to have this breakthrough moment here, and it might not be in the favorable position. It might be going to the downside. The key point here to keep in mind is that any discount in the market can be a great buying opportunity. if the right settings are in place, if we see the right opportunities. So we're going to be watching with fiat on standby to see if we can get those great discounts on the market. But we're also going to wait predominantly, especially if this might be a serious correction, about protecting our profits, making sure we're positioned to buy at the right time and not getting too eager. Okay, so anyways, guys, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, drop a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you haven't. Join the family. We're always happy to have you guys here. And until the next video, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.